Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining my colleagues, homelessness advocates, and me here today for the introduction of the Homelessness Accountability and Results Act, or AB 799. The state has allocated billions of dollars to combat homelessness. Last year, Governor Newsom took the extraordinary step to withhold HAP funds due to his concerns that local government plans will only reduce homelessness by 2% by 2024. State funding plays a critical role in the fight against homelessness. However, funding alone will not solve homelessness. The lack of accountability and inconsistent funding has caused a public policy feedback loop, resulting in homelessness response systems that are unable to meet the challenges of rising housing costs and insufficient affordable housing availability. In response to the growing concerns on how our HAP dollars are allocated and spent, I have introduced Assembly Bill 799 to reform our current approach to issuing funds and to ensure money is tied to successful programs that have tangible results. AB 799 seeks to strengthen California's response to homelessness by establishing strict accountability measures and evidence-based improvements to the HAP program to match the scope of California's homelessness crisis. We intend to do this by requiring the state to lead by setting goals through the reduction of homelessness in a collaborative manner with our local jurisdictions. If they are unable to meet these goals, HAP funds will be reallocated to the state's successful programs. The bill also streamlines administrative burdens on local systems while ensuring detailed information is made available to the public to ensure transparency. The bill also promotes investments in balanced homeless response systems that increase equitable housing outcomes for participants while maintaining flexible, eligible uses. I'm excited to be here to receive the support of my colleagues, and I look forward to continuing the work with our fellow homelessness advocates across the state. We have an amazing coalition that has met and developed this bill along with myself, my colleagues, and lots of others that really care about reducing homelessness in California. With this bill, we will be on track to reducing homelessness population in our state. Now I'll make a few comments in Spanish about the bill for our Spanish speakers and Spanish media. Hola, yo soy Luz Rivas, assemblista del Valle de San Fernando. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy, mis colegas y defensores de personas sin hogar. Hoy estamos aquí para introducir la ley de responsabilidad y resultados de personas sin hogar. El año pasado, el gobernador Newsom dio un paso grande de retener los fondos de HAP debido a porque estaba preocupado de que los planes del gobierno local solo reducirán la falta de vivienda de un 2% para el año 2024. La falta de estas cuentas y la financiación inconsistente han provocado un ciclo de retroalimentación que resulta en que los sistemas de respuesta para personas sin hogar no puedan enfrentar los desafíos del aumento de los costos de la vivienda y la insuficiente disponibilidad de viviendas. En respuesta, estamos aquí introduciendo una nueva ley, una propuesta de ley AB 799 para fortalecer la respuesta del Estado de California. Este es un problema grandísimo en el Estado de California y todos que estamos hoy, estamos juntos para tratar de resolver el problema. Estoy emocionada de recibir el apoyo de mis colegas y espero que trabajar junto a ellos y con nuestros compañeros para garantizar que California esté en camino de reducir su población sin hogar. Next up, I want to start with introducing a joint author, Assemblywoman Luz Wilson.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I am proud to be joining in this effort with Assemblymember Luz Rivas, a proven champion on this issue. Homelessness is one of, if not the most important issue amongst Californians. Currently, California has the highest homeless rate and accounts for 30% of the country's homeless population in 2022, despite making up less than 12% of the total population. Most recently, we've also learned that seniors are the fastest growing group amongst the homeless population. From 2017 to 2021, California's overall senior population grew by 7%, but the number of people 55 and over who sought homelessness services for the first time increased 84%. More than any other age group. Additionally, we know that Black Californians are disproportionately impacted, being close to 30% of those accessing homelessness services, despite only making up 6% of our state's population. And as chair of the Black Caucus, we have to do something about that. While we have made strides in the amount of services and in infrastructure investments to help reduce our homeless population, we have not done enough to keep up with the amount of folks becoming homeless for the first time. And we have seen how many localities are not working towards long-term programs that will effectively reduce our homeless numbers. While we have invested historic amounts of funding into this issue, it is also becoming increasingly unclear how cities and counties are spending this funding and how they are collaborating in order to tackle this crisis. Too often, I have heard from local city or county agencies and nonprofits organizations who do not know what other agencies or groups are doing or how much funding is available for certain efforts. I experienced this myself, having served in local leadership for 12 years. In order to adequately invest into preventing homelessness and significantly reducing our homeless numbers, we need more transparency and accountability to properly learn how effective our investments are and to ensure there is a coordinated collaboration. This issue and bill is one of my top priorities this year. I look forward to working with Assemblymember Luz Rivas and the entire coalition in order to ensure our state funds are being used efficiently and effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblymember Wilson. Very excited to have this team of all-star members join me on this bill. Next, I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Laura Friedman.
Good morning, and thanks so much for your interest in this very important topic. So just to give you an idea of how this issue of homelessness manifests itself locally in our Assembly office, we get calls all the time from people, and it's a variation on this. I have an elderly neighbor who lives down the hall from me in my building. They've just raised our rent 20% or 30% or whatever the number is. And she's on a fixed income, and I found out that she hasn't been able to pay her full rent for the past several months. She needs to move somewhere that she can afford. What can you do about it? Do you have somewhere else for her to move? Or my rent was just raised to some astronomical number. So I represent cities that don't have rent control, and I need to find another place to live. I'm working here in the city, and I can't find anything that's anywhere nearby where I work. Can you help me find an apartment that I can afford? And unfortunately, the answer to these residents so many times is, no, we don't have any place that we can bring you to, because for every affordable unit that's opened in my part of Los Angeles, we'll get between 6,000 and 7,000 income-qualified applicants. And we know that the Section 8 rolls were closed long ago. So when people call our office and say, how do I get a federal voucher for rent assistance? We have to say, you can go on the waiting list. But people have been on those waiting lists for 10, 15 years. So it's very frustrating for the general public when they hear that in the state we're spending billions, and that's billions with a B, of dollars on homelessness and housing. and yet they don't feel that they're seeing enough of an impact in their communities. Now, that's not to say that we don't have great projects going up in our communities and that we don't have elected officials locally who are incredibly dedicated to this issue. But there is often a lack of communication and a lack of coordination that's very visible to the public. For instance, people in Burbank will say, we've got a couple of people living behind our houses in the LA River, and they're posing a threat. They're wandering around with knives, which happened recently. And we can't even figure out what agency is supposed to respond to that because the land is federal land. When I get a call from LA Metro saying that LASA, the homeless agency for Los Angeles, is saying that they are not responsible for offering services on their transit system and will not go and offer services to people who are sleeping on the trains, that's a frustrating lack of coordination. Now, we've introduced a bill in the latter area to deal specifically with transit agencies, but I want to commend Luz Rivas for her leadership in this issue. She has jumped into this and is trying to bring all of these different groups to the table in a way that is incredibly important for us to be able to tell our taxpayers that their money is being well spent, that there's coordination, that there's accountability, so that if a group is not spending money wisely, we have a way to either make them put their money into better services, or we will stop funding them. It's that accountability and that transparency and that coordination that unfortunately has been lacking between a lot of our agencies, and which this coalition is determined to solve this year. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Assemblymember Friedman. Next, I have Assemblymember Chris Ward.
No problem. Well, thank you, Assemblywoman Rivas, and just really an honor to be here with this coalition with my colleagues, Assembly Members Wilson and Friedman. And just even as this press conference is going on, we're sure probably attract a lot more support from colleagues. I want to welcome my neighbor to the north, Senator Catherine Blakespear, as well, because this issue is critically important. Homelessness, as we know, is exacerbated all across the state, and we must stretch every grant to its fullest potential to address the crisis. That's what this bill is about. We need to strengthen the homeless housing and assistance and prevention program to be a crucial step to resolve this to the scope that we have in front of us, the homelessness crisis around us. And so I'm particularly excited to be a joint co-author on this bill. It will add accountability to the grant funds. And this harkens back to my own experience as the former chair of our continuum of care. I'm really grateful to have with us today the CEO of the San Diego Regional Task Force on the Homeless, Tamara Kohler, who worked closely with a wide group of local stakeholders to make sure that we were actually holding ourselves accountable. First, we wanted to transform our data systems and make sure that all of our users that were out there meeting people on the streets, working with housing units, that everybody was under the same system so that we could actually start to track what was going on with the limited resources that we had. And then we were able to transform that into a dashboard of sorts that was publicly available to be able to show and hold ourselves accountable what programs were working. Where were we housing people? Where were we diverting families from becoming homeless in the first place? Where were our service providers able to reach or be able to affect and help more individuals on the streets? All of these are really, really crucial pieces of information to understand and show the public that, yes, we are making significant investments in homelessness. And yes, we want to be able to understand which program, bang for buck, is more effective than other programs, because our resources are limited, but the scale of what we have to work with is incredibly frustrating. I'm just as frustrated as so many of our constituents in urban San Diego that see the numbers growing in the downtown community. So we just need to make sure that we are stretching our dollars as effectively as possible, and data is the answer for that. Having data-driven funding with a clear set of goals attached ensures that we are being more effective in resolving homelessness, meeting constituent expectations, and addressing this issue with the urgency that it demands. We owe it to our providers, to our constituents, and of course to the unhoused and those who are struggling on our streets to ensure that we are best utilizing these funds. So I am grateful to be a part of this venture. We have a lot of hard work to do, but it is the right next step for California to make sure that we are being effective with these dollars, because when we are being effective, we are actually helping more lives. And that, at the end of the day, is what we signed up to do to address the scale scale of this homelessness crisis. I want to thank Assemblywoman Rivas for her leadership, her long leadership in this area, and I'm excited to contribute as much as we can to make sure this is an impactful, effective bill, and when it implements, that it actually is going to be able to help use our dollars a lot smarter going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Ward. You know, both all of the joint authors today bring local elected experience, and that experience is very important to this coalition to make sure that we're taking in the voices from local elected leaders. Next, I'd like to introduce Tamara Kohler, Chief Executive Officer of the San Diego Regional Task Force on Homelessness.
Well, good morning. I'm honored to be here. My name is Tamara Kohler. I'm the CEO of the Regional Task Force on Homelessness. We are known as the lead for a continuum of care. There are 44 of them across the state, and we also receive funding through the HAP. I want to thank Assemblymember Rivas and those who co-authored this bill, especially my friend Assemblymember Chris Ward. As he said, we have worked closely, and our newest Assemblywoman, Mrs. Blakespeare. My opportunity in San Diego has been to work with my local leaders and those here at a state level. In San Diego, our community-based nonprofit service providers are housing more people than ever before. In fact, last year we had nearly 12,000 people were housed. We also had over 15,000 individuals fall into homelessness. To state it really clearly, for every 10 people we house, 13 more experience homelessness. And we are not alone. I hear it from my constituents and my colleagues across the state that no matter how well we're doing in housing individuals, the inflow into homelessness is outpacing our system's efforts. It is why investments from the state are critical. It is critical that we are supporting our service providers so that they may shelter and rehouse as many people as possible. But one-time investments are not enough. Housing is what we're looking for. We need to see policy changes coupled with a sustainable investment. The policy changes that Assemblymember Rivas has proposed in this bill will allow local jurisdictions to focus on the resource of building a balanced, collaborative, comprehensive response to homelessness that will quickly move people from unsheltered off our streets into safe, appropriate shelter settings, and then quickly rehouse to permanent housing, which is what ends people's homelessness. The sustained investment of HAP is what we need in this bill. It is proposed that it will allow us to take things to scale, and our interventions on the ground will become permanent and effective. And finally, we'll be able to go ahead and attack the inflow of those coming into homelessness. We're not only seeing it in San Diego, we're seeing it in every community across this great state. It's important to recognize that accountability is critical. It's critical to ending homelessness that we're working together. It's critical that we're accountable, and we all agree on this. But it also takes all levels of government working together, our federal partners, state and local governments. We must collaborate in a community-based approach with our providers, and also, importantly, with those with lived experience as we move this work forward. I believe this bill will do that, and we have our full support and are excited to see it move forward. I want to thank the Assemblywoman, and thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to welcome Reba Stevens, member of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority's Lived Experience Advisory Board. When we were forming this coalition, it was important to me and to all of us to make sure we had partners that had lived experience. And I'm proud that we have Reba here to represent that today.
Good morning. My name is Reba Stevens, and I am a proud member of the Brain California Home Coalition, the Los Angeles County Mental Health Commissioner, and an advisor to the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. And I, too, was a member of LAHSA's Lived Experience Advisory Board. I am a systems change agent. As an advocate from Los Angeles, I work directly with people who are currently experiencing homelessness to assist them to get back into housing. I am also a member of the Los Angeles Ad Hoc Committee on Black people experiencing homelessness. Personally, I experienced 21 years of my life unhoused on the streets of Los Angeles. And I can say that people who have experienced homelessness are the people who have the expertise to develop solutions. Thank you, Assemblywoman Rivas, for bringing this piece of legislation forward. So what are the roles of people with lived experience of homelessness? This piece of legislation is the only homelessness accountability legislation that was developed with the input and leadership of people with lived expertise of homelessness. Those of us who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. Those of us who have experienced homelessness are the ones that know what's working and what's not. So if we want to develop real solutions that stick, we need the experience of those of us who have been there. When I think about solutions that work, we know what works. Dignified housing coupled with adequate and appropriate services that people need to stay housed. This bill would make sure that local jurisdictions are providing just that. This bill would also make sure that local jurisdictions are centering racial equity in their solutions to end homelessness. And as you know, Black people make up 6% of the state population, but over 30% who are experiencing homelessness in California. And if we don't center racial equity, we are not going to solve the issue of homelessness. For example, we need to implement proven, culturally responsive strategies that address the disproportionality for certain groups who are overwhelmingly represented in current systems and designs that are not responsive to their needs, or implement strategies for the greatest impact and successful housing outcomes. My motto is, if you don't know what the problem is, there really is no solution. So I look forward to championing this legislation alongside Assemblywoman Rivas, as well as her joint authors on this bill, Wilson, Friedman, and Ward. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Reba, for your powerful words. Next, I'd like to invite Mari Castaldi from Housing California, who will be also taking questions from the press.
I don't know if there are any questions about the legislation that I can help answer.
The accountability piece, so what exactly does that look like in this legislation? Is it, if it's not followed, is there money taken away? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the accountability piece in this bill is really focused on the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, or HAP program, which goes to the 13 largest cities, counties, and COCs. There are numerous accountability provisions that have to do with the goal setting process, the requirements for how goals are met and how bonus funds are structured. And then there's also a requirement that if local jurisdictions are basically asked to set goals, this bill also asks the state to lead in setting those goals and work with local jurisdictions to set corresponding goals. And then if at least half of the jurisdiction's goals are not met, so if there are 6 goals set and 3 or less are met, then the jurisdiction may be put on a corrective action plan and work with the Cal ICH to implement changes to their homeless response system. And then if that corrective action plan was not satisfied, the funding could be reallocated to another entity within the same region. So what we don't want to see is money being taken away from a certain region and have the folks who are experiencing homelessness be the ones bearing the brunt of that. But there's the opportunity for a different entity within that jurisdiction to have the money reallocated.
And then the governor, I think, alluded to this kind of legislation. Has there been discussions with him on this? Is this something that he is on board with? If you're able to say.
Sure.
Part of the development of this proposal included conversations with the governor's team. We have started those conversations. They welcomed some of the language that's in there, but, as it moves forward, right, we will continue those conversations with the governor and his team. But I think it's great that Governor Newsom has been at the forefront of trying to solve homelessness in California. I've had a great relationship with his team in the last 4 years that I've served in the Assembly and have introduced and had bills signed on homelessness. And we will continue that.
And as those discussions were happening, on the other side of the aisle, those who don't represent cities as large as those that are represented here, LA and San Diego, for example. But, what does this look like for other jurisdictions, like smaller rural jurisdictions that might not have the resources in place that others do?
We're also really interested in connecting with smaller cities and counties and, hearing responses to this proposal and making sure it's something that can work for them. I know particularly for smaller jurisdictions, HAP funding is particularly transformational. It can be a bedrock of a local homeless response system. So we're really committed to making sure that the changes in this bill are workable and are really adding to capacity for local jurisdictions by reducing some of the administrative burdens that fall on jurisdictions as well, and trying to get to a path where the funding for HAP is ongoing, which can really provide a clearer pathway to building system capacity, to really being able to invest in those long-term solutions at scale.
Is there a specific dollar amount you're looking for ongoing?
I can speak on behalf of the Bring California Home Coalition. I don't know if Assemblymember Rivas would want to answer too. Our coalition has been advocating. Sure. Our coalition has been advocating for a $3 billion allocation in HAP ongoing. We know it's a tough budget year this year, but we're really interested in exploring pathways to increasing the HAP investment alongside increasing investments in affordable housing and other homelessness programs. But that is what our coalition is pushing for.
Is that $3 billion annually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we just introduced the bill. Of course, we're going to work with our budget chairs, and we understand that this year is a tough budget year for our state, but this is a big problem for California. Most of our constituents, no matter where you're from or who you represent here as an assembly member or senator, this is the #1 issue in the state of California for a lot of us, and it requires a large investment to solve it.
I know there was mention of the the state setting goals. A couple months ago, we saw the governor halt this, important set of funds, for jurisdictions that really, really were banking on having it. Is this a way to make those conversations more productive? I don't know if you're willing to weigh in on.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I think what we're hoping is that by having the state leading in setting goals and working really proactively with local jurisdictions to set corresponding goals, it can sort of enhance that collaboration between the state and local jurisdictions, and also sort of have folks working together around what is ambitious and what's achievable, and particularly sort of index to the level of investment that we're making. So I think that's part of the hope of this bill, is to sort of keep the doors are already open, right? And we know that that move around holding back the HAP funds was sort of a short term, and also increase that conversation between locals and the governor's office. So we're hoping to continue to build on that collaboration, and also, make space for advocates and folks in the communities to help inform that as well.
Why was accountability like this lacking? Why is this just now they're trying to be implemented?
Well, I've heard from a lot of my colleagues or in hearings on homelessness that they feel that there's a lack of accountability, and I think it's something that we need to be more transparent on as the state, and that's what our bill does today, is make that information public too. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you to my colleagues that are joint authors and to this amazing coalition for helping us develop this policy. And this is just the beginning. So thank you so much.